All right. Welcome to the May 7th, 2020 Buildings, Facilities, and Capitals Committee meeting. For everyone's notification, this meeting is being recorded and broadcasted live on local. Sorry, I'm about to sorts there for a minute. We have meeting minutes on the agenda today. I'm not sure if everyone has had a chance to review those meeting minutes. There's 3 past meetings, and I don't want to take up everybody's time to review all 3 meetings during this meeting. So if anyone hasn't had a chance to review those, I would entertain a motion to table those for our next meeting. I do want to get through them. It's just that I don't want to have everyone reading pages of minutes on this meeting. How anybody feel differently on that?
I've read them.
Oh, you've read them?
I've read them.
Okay. Has anyone
just glanced over just now just to make sure that I've read them?
Okay. All right. So yeah, all right. We'll go ahead and so I'm working on one screen here. We'll go ahead and get right into them then.
Be willing to, Mr. Small, make the motion to approve the minutes from April 2nd, 2020.
I'll second that, Dan Salvucci.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All right, I'm working on one screen. Bear with me for 1 second. All right, all in favor? We need a roll call vote. Justin Evans.
Yes.
Dave Cordero, yes. Josh McNeil.
Yes.
Dan Salvucci.
Yes.
Fred Small.
Yes.
Aaron Taylor.
Yes.
Don Essen.
Yes.
All right, unanimous. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7-0. Entertain a motion for.
Mr. Small, make the motion to approve the minutes from April 9th, 2020.
Dan Salvucci will second it again.
All right. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Don Essen.
Yes.
Aaron Taylor.
Yes.
Fred Small.
Yes.
Dan Salvucci.
Yes.
Josh McNeil.
Yes.
Dave Cordero, yes. Justin Evans.
Yes.
All right, that's that. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Small, make the motion to approve the minutes from April 16th, 2020.
And Dan Salvucci will second them.
Any discussion? All right, vote. Dan Salvucci.
Yes.
Fred Small.
Yes.
Aaron Taylor.
Yes.
Don Essen.
Yes.
Josh McNeil.
Yes.
Dave Cordero, yes. Justin Evans.
Yes.
All right, is that all of them?
That's all of them.
That's
all.
it.
All right, that's good. All right. At this point, we'd typically have a town administrator's report. He's not currently present, so we'll table that and see if he'll join our meeting. Chairman's report. The Finance Committee had a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen on Tuesday. Quite a bit was discussed on the draft Article 2 and the draft warrant articles for the town meeting and special town meeting. Concerns were raised that the school committee has not yet approved a budget. So if you can imagine that, that's the biggest ticket item, line item in the Article 2. And so it's kind of hamstringing the Finance Committee in a sense to understand what available finances are out there based on what their request is. We're estimating what their request is. based on their past meetings and past requests. So we have a placeholder. However, that's gonna likely fluctuate tens of thousands either up or down. Other concerns were made with the regional agreement committee. Justin, sorry, do you want to speak on behalf of what those concerns were and how you as a member are dealing with them?
Can I say no?
Yeah.
I'll touch on it. So we discussed the progress of the regional agreement amendment committee, and a lot of progress is not amending the regional agreement, but they've been focused on a school budget for this year that the towns of Whitman, Hanson, and the school district can all agree upon. It was the decision of the Board of Selectmen Tuesday night to reinforce our earlier stance on a statutory method for this year. So my position on that committee will now be more of an advisory and focused on the regional agreement, not the budget for this year. The finance committee, I believe, backed up that opinion. I don't know if you took a vote on it recently, but your initial vote was strongly in favor of the same. And yeah, that leaves us in the same question we have in Article 2 on the school funding, along with leaving questions on available capital and available free cash.
Right. And if I'm understanding, so essentially when it comes to the school committee assessment, if just to describe how that works, the assessment has to be agreed upon by both towns. The method, taking away the method and the amounts, the total assessment has to be agreed upon by each town. Now, that's a separate issue of what I'm trying to get to here. But essentially, once that amount gets agreed upon, once the school committee decides on a budget and how it's allocated to each town, and agreed upon. I forget where I was going with this. That essentially has to be agreed upon by both towns. Now, the town of Whitman or the town of Hanson, for that matter, could agree, disagree, could approve or not approve. And if both towns don't approve, that creates issues. So if you can imagine, essentially the issues that are going on today is that Hanson feels there are people within the town of Hanson that feel that that the methodology is incorrect and should be a certain way. The town of Whitman feels, people in the town of Whitman feel differently, and there's essentially a stalemate. So if that doesn't get agreed upon, there's going to be a litany of procedures that's going to happen, and who knows. So just to let everyone know that how that may affect us in terms of the capital committee. Go ahead, Fred. Sorry.
Yeah, and to address those concerns and to address those items, we've been trying to pass a budget. I believe I can speak pretty clearly, not for lack of trying, at least from most of the, if not all of the Whitman members, trying to pass a number. And as was stated by one of the Hanson members, there was no number that they would find agreeable under a statutory assessment method. What happens is statutory is the assumed method, so to speak, where if you do it by statutory measure, you vote your budget, you're all set. If you vote an alternative method or agreement method, it has to be approved by 2/3 of the member towns, or in the case of a 2-member region, it needs to be approved by both towns. Now, the method can be kicked back, but the budget approved. Okay, I don't see either happening. What I see, the path that we're currently on a statutory path. I don't know how we even come up with the budget. We'll try again Wednesday night of next week. But the method in determining how, if it's not statutory, I fully believe that it will get to town meeting and it will get kicked in the town of Whitman. A Whitman taxpayer is not going to want to pay the additional sums, as well as it's going to get to Hanson. And I'm sorry, the statutory method would get approved in Whitman, it would get kicked in Hanson. Or if it was ever vice versa, we would kick the agreement method because we wouldn't pay additional. What I think everyone has failed to absolutely positively realize, everyone's poking their fingers up and saying, we're paying for Hanson kids, et cetera, and people don't understand the formula where a foundation budget takes into consideration different amounts for your children from pre-K through 12. And once a foundation budget is figured out, the Department of Revenue also determines what the ability of a town's value is of what they can pay for their education. The difference is the Chapter 70 funding. And when you do a statutory formula, they take all of these things into consideration, and what's left after the minimum local contributions, etc., is split up as per the agreement. Whitman pays 60%, Hanson pays 40%, roughly. Okay, the town of the city of Brockton, they're getting $12 million a kid, or 12,000 a kid rather, for their Chapter 70 funding. Far, far in excess of what we get for our funding. It's not a fair formula per town, per city, etc. It takes different things into weighted consideration. Brockton has far more business and industry that they're able to tax. It doesn't matter. They look at the overall picture, okay? And all Whitman is saying is, we want what's fair and we want what's right. And we've been overcompensating in past years. And maybe that's why we ended up in financial trouble. You start paying $1 million more than what your budget is built for, or what everything is geared toward. And now you're in trouble that way. So we have our capital needs, and they've been slid by the board. I mean, my God, look at the DPW for how many years they've been neglected. And, all we can do is prioritize as best we can. But at the same time, if we look at our schools and look at our school numbers, at the very worst, I would think we should look at the $50 million and change that includes our 4 teachers. And Whitman's share would be $15 million, 2 and change, if I'm not mistaken, and pencil in that number. Because if it goes to town meeting and gets kicked back to the school committee, we then kick it back to the towns one more time. It comes back to us again. The only other path forward from that point forward is the statutory method. You cannot use an agreement method. It has to be statutory. And I believe that the people of Whitman would keep kicking it. Okay, or the people of Hanson would keep kicking it, no matter which side of the shoe is on. So until we get this all figured out, that there is nothing else in a quote-unquote agreement, that's what I think is going to happen. So I would pass that guide if we could use it, and use the doomsday scenario, so to speak, being statutory, being X amount of dollars, and use that as a pencil-in number. So when we're trying to figure out what we have available for capital projects. Sort of a long way to get there, but I've had a lot on my plate lately, and
sure was.
reading in reading some of the finger pointing, etc. And the good folks at Hanson, they didn't do this on purpose. It wasn't their fault that this was being done, but the people who've been suffering from this have been the taxpayers of Whitman. And it's been a horrible thing to have been on the shoulders of the taxpayer. Can't blame them for not wanting, they want to pay their share, but I can't understand why, or I can understand rather, why they don't want to pay more than their share. And that being said, if we could come to some sort of a compromise that we could all afford, we have 2 years so we can listen. And I think that the Board of Selectmen and Whitman are willing to at least listen and go from there.
4 of them will listen.
Huh?
4 of them will listen.
Well, Dan, if you don't listen, I'm sorry. You got 2 ears.
I know it.
I would hope that you would at least listen. Doesn't mean you
What?
have to vote yes.
What?
Yeah. Huh? What?
All right. So let me just finish this up and we'll get to Justin. So the point is that there's a dollar figure there that we just don't know what it is just yet. And it's really, it's a large sum of money, and the swing, depending on what the assessment, request is, the swing could be plus tens of thousands, minus tens of thousands. So it's really keeping, hamstringing the process a little bit and slowing things down and tying things down. Go ahead, Justin.
I was just going to say a few things for the concerns of this committee. It's quite possible that the school district will begin the year in a 1/12 budget, at which point the funding for the schools from Whitman, if we eventually reached the full $55 million budget that they're requesting at the statutory method, we would have to come up with an additional $2 million ballpark, based on our statutory figure for last year was about 13,300,000, and this year would be 15,100,000. 15,2.
15.
So
I don't honestly, I don't see any scenario where we go more than 15.1 unless there's some kind of compromise. Any 1/12, I mean, the chances are it's going to go down more than it's going to go up. Even if the school committee, for some reason, next meeting decides to rescind their statutory vote and go back to the old method, Whitman's not going to pay any more money. We're still going to keep with the 15.1. So in doing that, the school committee is basically cutting their budget if they do that. But, I don't see us going any higher than 15.1 unless there's some compromise.
yeah, just there is a quite likely scenario that we begin the school year at a 1/12 budget and pass a
Higher
school
one later. Yeah.
pass one later.
That's why we
would need
gotta
additional.
That's
yeah.
why we really should keep the 15.1 in there, even if it goes down. They go 1/12. I mean, we still at town meeting should go 15.1 no matter what, just so that if we start lower and then in December they could come in and say you got to pay more, we have it in our budget to keep it at the 15.1. So.
And in the long roundabout way, that's sort of what I was trying to say. So thank you, John, for suggesting that. I wanted to get a little bit of some formulas off of my chest.
The Reader's
at the
Digest
same time.
version.
So John, while you
the
have
big Reader's Digest version.
while you have the platform, so I asked John as part of the finance committee to discuss is it the revenues forecast?
I have 2 I could show you. Yeah.
Okay. And just kind of give you an idea of
Just gotta find it. So
how we anticipate numbers coming in and how that affects capital, the ability for to raise capital for capital projects.
So one of the big things that's happened in the last couple of weeks, obviously, it is COVID-19. And one of the things that we've been working hard in is trying to figure out how that's affecting our revenue and basically the money that we have to spend. And obviously, COVID-19's had a big impact. If you look here on line number 11, cherry sheets, we went from originally we were figuring almost $3 million. Everybody can see this, right? I'm sorry. I should
Yep.
ask.
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
Is there any way we can get a copy of this after the fact, John?
Sure, I can email it to you. Yeah.
Oh, you're awesome. Thank
Lisa,
you.
Lisa, do you have that? Maybe while I'm talking, I don't know, but I can mail it out. So we dropped it down to 2714. So right there, we took away almost $300,000 on what we figured we had to spend. Down here, we also made some adjustments in what we were figuring we were going to be able to use right here, ambulance receipts and motor vehicle funds. Remember, we're changing the way we do the ambulance fund now. So the ambulance fund is going to be a local receipt. So we're estimating what they are. And we went from 843 to 700,000. We also made some big changes in meal taxes and motor vehicle excises. Literally, we decided that we had almost $700,000 less of money to spend. So obviously that affects a lot when you 2 months ago or a month and a half ago figured you had 700,000 more than you actually are going to figure now. So this in about where this is basically just kind of calculating available funds. When we go over to, this is the one you guys really want to see. Can you see that now that it changed?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I wasn't sure if that would work. So this is the spreadsheet in which kind of the decisions have been made on where to fund. Here, let me open this up. Sorry. Can you see all the way over to ambulance fund and snow and ice all there? You guys see all
Yep.
that? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So basically what we figured out is we just within raise and appropriate, we didn't have enough money to just fund Article 2 alone. So basically in Article 2, we have $36 million in Article 2, but we're about $582,000 short in what we would be getting in local receipts and from just the regular taxes on real estate. So you could see with the 700,000 hurt us a lot because now we're 582,000 short. So we're going to have to make that up. And, you know, the way we've always done it, even though we're trying to change it, is the ambulance fund. So we're going to need to use a good amount of the ambulance fund just to pay for the budget. But you can see here everything that's changed. One of the big things that we were talking about, and we started talking about it a little bit here, was the feasibility study for the middle school. Initially, we had that, and it's voted by a couple committees that we were going to pay for that out of free cash. But with the with the advent of the changes in revenue, we now are looking to fund that some way, either with a band, which is Frank could explain more if he was here, or just borrowing. So unfortunately, in borrowing that, we have to have the district has to do the borrowing it for us. So Frank has reached out to John Tuffy up at the schools to get the numbers on that. But that was in free cash, so we've taken that out. We still will probably have to, if we borrow against it, maybe a 3-year borrow, we're still going to have to pay $350,000 or so. So that'll come back in. But anyway, you can see we have when we're all done, we'll have about 35,000 left in the ambulance fund. We'll have about 830,000 left in free cash, minus whatever we have to pay for the fees of the borrowing. So that'll be down maybe 350 to like 500 or something like that. But everything works out and we're able to fund it all. But still, again, the question will be, are we really going to do all of these items and fund them all? And I think that's probably more of a FinCom Board of Selectmen concern than you guys, but you guys can certainly talk about it, I'm sure. Any questions or anything on either form? Sorry, I went.
Actually, it's more of a statement and a question at the same time. And I don't know if Lisa would be able to find this out, or if we would toss this on to the schools, or maybe I know Dan has a relationship with some of our Plymouth County folks. Could the feasibility study and the need of using the money that we had and had voted for, could that be considered a COVID related loss, so to speak, that we could file a claim or ask for reimbursement of some sort? We had the money put away. We've now had to spend the money elsewhere.
Well, we estimated.
They've got 90 million.
We estimated, and cherry sheets, the $3 million we get from the state, I mean, that's an estimate anyway. So, I mean, I can't, these aren't COVID related expenses. So I can't imagine, I mean, Lisa would know better, but I can't imagine that any of these lost revenues are something that they would cover, because it's
No.
not something we've gone out and spent. It's not like we had to spend $300,000 because of something that happened because of COVID-19. We're just losing the revenue. I mean,
Right.
basically the cherry sheets come from the lottery. So you can imagine nobody's playing the lottery anymore. So I'll go back to that
Right.
form. So this 2 million, almost all, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but most of that's lottery money. So
Yeah.
that's, what we're losing.
Sales tax, etc.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah.
John, can you just go back to that last table?
Sure.
So the one thing that really it concerns me is that it's not recommended to use one-time money to fund an operating budget. Because sometimes that one-time money isn't a consistent source and could be a source that could be eliminated. So when so you can see we're over the levy by line 3, line 2 of 582,000. We're using the ambulance receipts, which are one-time money,
No, it isn't.
to fund operating costs.
It is this year, Dan. That money is one-time money because that's going away. Because we've got it. We've
But I'm
also,
saying that's reoccurring. That's reoccurring revenue.
yeah, but we're using it over here now
Yeah.
as a local revenue. So that pool that we're taking that 500 grand from, see how we have it over here now? Because of the way we're changing the way we're using it, that it's already in our budget as a local receipt over here. So we're almost getting a double whammy this year because of because of the way we're changing over. So this current and actually here's the money we have, the ambulance fund down here at the bottom, line 47. That's this year's ambulance fund, and right now we have about 984,000 in there. And then up here, 15 and 16 are anticipated revenues for next year because it goes into our local receipts. So, but still, to answer your question, Dave.
Well, hold on, I didn't have a question. I had a statement.
Okay.
Let me just finish my statement. So, since my tenure on the finance committee for the past 3 years, each year the fire chief has stated that there is draft. There's an effort to remove the town's ability, or to really hamper the town's ability to collect revenue from ambulance related costs. So when we see almost $1 million of ambulance revenue coming in, he's been warning us for over 3 years now, since 3 years since I've been there, that money could dwindle or be eliminated. So if you can imagine revenues dropping by $1 million, that will have a significant effect on our Article 2 and ability to fund capital projects. So
Dave, if I could respond to that.
yeah, hold on, I'm not finished. Hold on.
Sorry.
So additionally, again, just to emphasize, using one-time money for operating expenses can be a very dangerous thing to do. Okay, Lisa, go ahead.
So I just, with that concern, I am a member of the MMA Personnel and Labor Relations Policy Committee. And we talk a lot about legislative activity going on. There was at one point a bill regarding that to put that type of expense back on the insurance companies to be able to pay the ill person that was transported. But that has since pretty much died in the legislature. So I don't see any of that coming anywhere close to even being passed as legislation anytime soon. It's not even on anybody's radar at this point. So if any of that were to come to light, it's going to be many, many years down the line. And from the legislative analyst, MMA, Lisa Adams, there wasn't really an appetite in the legislature to move this particular bill forward at all. So I think that our concerns over that are, at this point, we really shouldn't have any, because there's nothing in the legislature on that at this point on anybody's radar.
Okay. So right. Okay. So that's fine, but it still shouldn't. It still doesn't alleviate my concern about using one-time monies for operating expenses, because if you can imagine, each year is different in terms of the fire department's ability to collect on the number of ambulance runs they make that are billable, and their ability to collect on them. So, that's a fluctuating number. And the Madden recommendations were not to use one-time money for operating expenses. So it doesn't alleviate that concern.
Oh, sure,
David?
I understand that, but just, at least with concern of that possible legislation, at least I wanted to ease your mind on that possibly happening.
Okay.
Dave, can I jump in real quick too to
Yeah.
answer you? So the $700,000 that we just took away from our revenue, all was levy money. It was cherry sheets, it was local receipts, all of those. That entire 700,000 that we just lost the last 2 months would have offset. If we didn't lose that money, we would have been in good shape.
Right.
Because we would have been, add 700,000 out, we got 100,000 extra, and we're not using the ambulance fund. So I think what we have done, and just and you're on the FinCom with me, and you were on the budget override, everything that we had recommended and we were moving forward was looking great until COVID-19 kicks in and we lost 700 grand in estimated revenues. Who knows? Maybe we'll only be 500,000 less. But, we've got to estimate these things, and that's kind of our best estimate, guess, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
But we're not using one-time money if we didn't lose that 700 grand.
Right.
So, it's not terrible, but still, we got to deal with it.
Right. All right.
You want me to leave this up, or you want me to take it down?
Josh has a question. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
And then we'll get to Fred.
I forwarded an email to, I believe, everyone in regards to the phone system for the schools. I heard back from George Farrow, and apparently they're looking to basically stop it or pause it at this point. So I'm assuming that's going to free up $180,000.
Oh, dude.
Oh.
That's nice.
All right. We'll go back to that, Josh. Fred, go ahead.
No, and I want to say you're 100% correct, Dave, as far as using one-time money. But at the same time, you have a stabilization fund, or quote unquote rainy day fund, like the state. And if there's any time that things are raining, perhaps it's right now. I would think that perhaps for the balance, it's the charge of this committee. And, tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know that it's us to identify what available revenues there are, but perhaps to get some direction between the Selectman's office and the FinCom as to what available revenues are. But are we at the point where we really have to go back and forth and start to prioritize what projects we feel are left over that need to get done if we can't do everything? Because it looks like we're probably not going to be able to.
Okay. You're right, and it's not our part of our mission to identify all the funding sources for these capital projects. But when we regrouped early this season, we did make it was a conscious effort, a statement that we said that it's not only our responsibility to recommend capital projects to the town, but also do it in a fiscally responsible manner. But and that's the reason. That's the only reason I wanted to bring this table up and have this discussion. Is that it seems that of the warrant articles recommended for town meeting, special town meeting in spring. It appears that we're going to be able to, it appears that at this point, we're going to be able to fund them all. And then it's just going to be a matter of depending on what the funding source is and whether or not the larger ticket items should be borrowed.
All right.
All right.
No, thank you.
Any other discussion on that?
And by the way, Mr. Galvin, once again, invaluable document for us. Absolutely incredible. Thank you so much.
Well, Frank prepared it. I'm just sharing it. I probably had some input in having him change it a little bit, but he prepared it, not me.
That's an awful lot of work there. A ton of work.
All right, so we'll go right into the warrant articles. Josh, you want to continue your discussion on the phones?
Yeah, I sent a message over to George as I received a response from Steve stating that any further communication moving forward needs to be through George or Jeff in relation to the phone system. Is obviously Steve's more on the technical side and George is managing the department. So in reaching out to George, his response back was essentially that they're looking to they figured they were going to be able to just put the proposal together and run with the replacement in regards to replacing the phone system. But there's obviously a lot more involved, and obviously there's a few different options that we obviously had talked about in our last few meetings as far as to what to do and what to replace and so on and so forth. So it sounds to me like, based on his email, that they're looking to sort of table this for the moment and maybe come back to it at some point in the future.
Okay.
Hey.
So if I understand correctly, that the Board of Selectmen have not yet certified the warrant. So Dan, I get this, and Justin, this might be a question toward you guys or Lisa. Would it be a matter of that department notifying the Board of Selectmen and having the Board of Selectmen withdraw it, or
Now we just pass over at a town meeting if it's on the warrant.
well, if the warrant's not satisfied, it can be taken right off the warrant, can't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. But I'm just saying.
Could I
if
make
it-
a suggestion?
Sure.
If we send a letter to the superintendent's office or an email to the superintendent's office, whereas the school committee had voted on this, placed on the warrant for the school committee to vote to take it off at this time. That way there, you guys just take it off. It's not on there. There's no discussion. There's no, it's nice and clean. It doesn't have to be passed over.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a good idea. I mean, what is your thoughts on this, Fred, as far as the...
I want to see it get done right. And I don't know, as we had discussed, that every avenue and every possibility was investigated properly or completely thoroughly. Because I think there are less expensive ways to skin a cat and provide the phone service.
Yeah,
I do know we need to do something.
I just want to let everybody know Frank just joined the meeting.
Yeah, my only fear
Okay.
is
The
obviously...
meeting was for 4:30.
No, 3:30.
Oops.
Yeah, my only fear, Fred, is that obviously if there's a significant failure during the year, it's going to cost obviously a significantly more money to obviously replace it on demand, if you will, than it is obviously to plan it out. But if they feel okay waiting.
And that's going to be, their decision. I was an advocate for finding out, and investigating every possible way, especially where you're dealing with tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the thought that I would have is that by removing it from the warrant, one, it's a cleaner. It allows for cleaner bookkeeping and estimating for the Finance Committee and Board of Selectmen, but also it prevents an item being brought forth to town meeting and then being brought forth again, and then essentially passed over and then brought forth again, and then what happens at town meeting? People always say, "Oh, well, we've seen this one before," and then have a cloud of suspicion over it.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention that I haven't responded back to George yet, but I'm hoping that there'll be a significant amount more grant capability, opportunities possible for the coming year, just because of all this COVID. I know for a fact that the state is releasing or was provided money for in relation to cybersecurity, which is obviously not related to the telephone system. But irregardless, I think we're going to see, more money for grants, hopefully in the IT side of things. So hopefully we'll be able to utilize some money to assist with that project, and that may save us some money down the line when the project comes back on the table.
Okay. So Frank, just to get you up to speed, we've approved the meeting minutes listed on the agenda, and John Galvin, as part of the Finance Committee, presented the revenue forecast.
Good, great.
And we just started getting the warrant articles, and we were just talking about the school phone system when you came in.
Yeah, that's probably a good topic because I don't think we're ready to move on that yet.
So, right. So I mean, my question was, and I'm not sure if you heard it, but would it be cleaner for everyone if the school committee feels it's appropriate just to remove it from the warrant? That way you're not presenting something at one town meeting, presenting it at another one, and having.
Yeah, my feeling is if we're not going to act on it, we should simply remove it. We can make a notation for that article withdrawn to be presented at a later meeting.
Okay. All right.
Frank,
If the schools are amenable to that, we can do that. If they want to keep it on the warrant, they have the option of doing that. It's gone through the capital committee, and whether we recommend it or not, once it's through the capital committee, department is able to bring it forward. They just wouldn't have any support.
Right, but we don't have a number. We don't have a definitive number based upon.
It's a guess right now.
Yeah.
And George, could you share with Frank the email that George Farrow sent you?
I'm sorry?
So that George Farrow
hold on, let me stop
has said that
sharing
he
what I
wants
got.
to
Hold on.
hold off.
Oh, well, that makes it simpler.
Yeah, I forwarded that email to all the committee members. I'm not sure. I believe I sent it to
I
you.
didn't receive it.
You didn't receive it? Okay, I'll double check to make sure you were on the list, but all the committee members should have received
When
it.
did that go out, Josh?
Just when the meeting started,
Yeah, I think
Oh,
I
all
can
right.
share it. Hold on. Let me
All right,
if
I
can
see
share
it here.
3:30.
I see
3:35,
it here.
like that.
Yeah, I could share it. Here it is.
Yeah, it's there. I see it.
Okay, you're not in my junk. It's not in my junk file either.
So that's it. If everybody can see it, that's the email right there.
All right, so we'll remove it from the warrant.
Yeah,
Okay. So does Josh or
easy
Fred,
enough.
do you want to notify whomever over at this school committee? I don't know.
I mean, yeah, Fred, do you want to have the school committee respond to that or send a request over to remove?
I would say just to respond to George's email, say thank you, we've removed it from the warrant.
Okay.
Look, the simpler I think we keep it, the better.
Sounds good.
Okay. So that's something for us to keep in mind for next budget season, right?
Yeah, that should be one of the first things that we target next year.
Right. Yep. Okay. All right.
So
So
I'm looking at the email. I'm going to reply to all, and I'm going to add you to it, Fred, because somehow you didn't make it in there.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Fred, that probably should come up at the.
I'm sorry?
That should probably come up at the school committee meeting so that Hanson doesn't fund it.
Yeah, I think we'll make sure that we make mention. What I'll do is take that email. I'll make sure that the chair has it, and we'll bring it up then.
Oh, let Hanson.
Yeah, they'll have plenty of money to fund it, right, Dan?
Sure.
Well, you know something? If there's a dollar amount that they were holding aside to fund that line item,
Right.
they just got a raise.
Well, there are other things they can do with it.
Yeah.
Oh, they're getting raises, all right.
Yeah. Yeah, I can go toward the statutory.
and they say we don't care about them. I say we care about them. All right. So in the document that Frank sent out today, that the very last page is the articles for 221 action taken. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, There's 19 on there. We've just taken action. We've in the past we've taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 votes. We've taken action on number 9. So we're just about halfway through. Frank, if do you want me to pause here? Do you have anything in terms of a town administrator report?
Well, finance, did you go over the fact that the finance committee and selectmen met?
Yeah, and the just the key points out of that was the school committee lack of a school committee budget, and just that the fact that we went through the article, all the articles.
We one of the things that I do have to comment on is there is still some potential dialogue between Whitman and Hanson to come up with an agreement for the transition, using my words carefully here, to the, Dan, you may not speak yet. Mute Dan.
I can do that if you want.
Come up with the
Please do.
transition for the shift to statutory assessment. I don't know where we're going with this, but if that is a possibility, it will not wipe out our reserve cash and free cash, but it will put a serious dent in it. And that's what we're looking at to start planning for FY22. So, it's uncertain at this point where we're going with that, but I think we currently just have to work with this year's numbers and trust that we'll work things out for next year. I don't see any other way to approach this. It's a powder keg for a lot of different people.
You're breaking up, Frank.
See where it takes us.
You broke up halfway through that, Frank.
He's frozen.
I heard
too.
powder keg.
I'm going to have to relocate because I'm not getting a good signal here.
I'm not going to say nothing.
Let me see if this fixes it. Is this any better?
It seems so. I mean, it seems
Yeah.
better.
All right, we'll give that a try. Were you able to hear my statement, or was it all broken up?
It broke up.
I heard powder keg,
Yeah,
but it was
Okay.
broken.
Let me just move. Hang on a minute. We'll go through the virtual.
Oh, we're
folder.
gonna take a walk.
All right. I'll go to my den. Connection seems to be better there.
this is the most exercise I've gotten all week.
So anyway, how am I coming in now?
I get my 3-year-old son on FaceTime, a grandson, and he runs all around the house, and I get dizzy. I feel like I'm gonna get sick just as he runs around the house with the phone. It's almost quite as bad as that.
Well, my 9-year-old plays video games, and they're workouts for him. He jumps with the character. He slips right, slips left, swings these arms. It's really hysterical watching him. He's like a little Mario. So anyway, what I had said before was that everything's up in the air on this assessment piece. And if there is movement, it could have an impact on our available cash going into next year. Right now, as I look at it, we have pretty much between 700,000 and 800,000 to work with to start our capital planning. But if there's a need for us to increase our participation in the region, then that number shrinks very quickly.
There you go.
So we have to plan for this year and get through our town meeting. And then we have to, in my estimation, what I would recommend is that we move forward almost immediately to starting next year's target. And we work with what we have and see where it takes us. But we can't hold one for the other. My thoughts, anyway.
All I had heard was working for the next budget, and to me that sounds like you just want us to work all year long.
Well, almost. You know, we might get a month's break.
All right. Yeah, and that's Frank. Before you arrived, that was kind of the sentiment that we were trying to get forth in regards to the school committee budget and how that's the large ticket item that and there's so much fluctuation going on right now that we don't know which way that's going to swing for us.
Right.
All right. So going to that last page on that document that was sent out today by Frank, articles for 2021 action taken. I guess we should just maybe start at the top and maybe we can get through these maybe today.
You want me to share that document again, Dave?
Yeah, if you don't mind. It's the last page.
Could you make sure I'm on the list? Or actually, if you're sharing it there, that's fine. That'll work.
That's not the one.
Oh, that's not what you're talking about?
No, the email that went out today.
I don't have that.
Oh, you don't have that?
You dropped that.
I didn't
Mine
get an
will show.
email today.
Go to the minutes and go to
Yeah,
the very last.
I'll
page.
share it. Hang on a minute.
Frank will do it.
Let's see where to go.
Oh, I got it here. Okay.
He's got it now?
PDF.
I got it.
Here. Here we go. And share. Eventually I'll get all this right. Now the share went away. Share screen. There we go. That's the one.
Oh, yeah, it looks good.
Starting.
So does that display now?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So trying to make sure I can see everybody in case somebody has any questions here. Okay. So just in no particular order, we'll just start at the top, I guess. P1, it was the reimbursement of the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District of all parking lot. I think everybody's familiar with this one. The school committee had decided to.
No. Never came before the school committee.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
So the repair changes were made to the Duval parking lot. Notifications of those were made to the Board of Selectmen. However, the Board of Selectmen did not respond either way in regards to how they planned on how they consider. Well, if I remember correctly, Frank, the Board of Selectmen didn't consider that. Oh, there it is. Frank, if I remember correctly, the Board of Selectmen did not consider the Duval parking lot an emergency situation, and so there was no action taken in terms of response.
That is correct. We had received that request as an emergency. Lisa and I drove out there, went through the parking lot, looked at the issues, and I came back and notified both the business manager and the facilities director that we did not view that as an emergency, and they could feel free to put it on the capital requests for the next town meeting. They proceeded with the project using DPW personnel and equipment, for much of it, and then sent us the bill. So I was a little taken aback by it. Unfortunately, it's done.
Yeah.
And it's money spent. It's money spent on a Whitman facility. Under our agreement, we are obligated to pay for capital expenditures over $5,000 on Whitman equipment and facilities. So we could refuse to fund this, but that will end up in a three-party debate with the region, with Hanson, because regional money was used to fund it, and we're not putting our share in, and they're going to argue that it shouldn't be the expense of the region. All in all, it was not a good move, and certainly I think we gave that message to the school district that you can't just do this. You have to follow a process. I don't think that the board is not going to oppose making this payment, but we want to be sure that this is a one-time thing.
Okay, and the school committee's aware of the Whitman Board of Selectmen opinion of.
Oh, the way Frank just laid it out is the best of my knowledge exactly the way it happened. The school committee nor the facility subcommittee had any idea that the project went through and went forward until after it was already done. I did have a brief conversation. It's very difficult to, as you know, Ernie's out right now, but I did have a conversation with him a few months back that he did say he had something in an email, but whichever. I mean, it's something that we did. It has to get paid, I guess, and go from there.
Well, in fact, Ernie did send me that email, and it showed what I said it did, that we don't consider this an emergency expenditure.
Okay. So that.
Yeah, can I speak on that? Frank, the only issue I have with this is the whole fact that we said it's not an emergency, it doesn't need to be done, and he went and did it anyway. I think if I was on the school committee, he'd be written up for that.
Well, in my tenure on the finance committee, I know there's been other departments that have made, or at least one department I'm aware of, made kind of a similar situation where they purchase something without the proper
authorization. They should be written up for it.
And in that case, it was addressed, and it hasn't happened since.
Right.
Okay.
So
and what I suggest is we support it. I had a conversation with I'm trying to think. This originally came up with Christine and then Mary Jo. I will have a conversation with the superintendent about our concern that this occurred in a vacuum and shouldn't, and we won't support these types of transactions in the future unless we know they're there.
I mean, as far as I've known, it's always been commonplace that we send a letter, it goes to the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Selectmen are aware, and the Board of Selectmen, vote, to give us the authorization and the go-ahead. If we have the time, if it's an emergency, a water heater explodes and you have to do something that day, then it's a little different of a thing.
Even in those instances, I've been called and said, look, this is what happened. That actually happened at the Conley. And Ernie called me and said, I've got to fix it. I said, well, we don't meet for a week, but go ahead and fix it, and I'll bring it to the board at our next meeting. So at least we were aware of it, and I authorized it in an interim basis with the expectation that the board would agree with me. I don't know what would
And it was a
happen
true
if they didn't.
emergency,
Yeah,
but it was a true emergency.
right.
You know, that's, I think, the difference here.
Okay. So, I'll entertain a motion for Article.
Mr. Small, make a motion for Article P1, reimburse the Whitman Hanson Regional School District $20,000 for the Duval parking lot.
I'll second that, Dan Salvucci.
All right. Any further discussion on that? All right. Roll call vote. Dave Cordero, yes. Justin,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Fred,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Don Essen.
Yes.
Okay. Unanimous, 8-0. All right.
Mini.
Did I say Justin? All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 more lines down. Purchase a motorcycle. That's for public safety, police department. Frank, do you know? Do we have? Does the police department currently have one motorcycle in?
Yes, we have a motorcycle that we've leased from year to year. It serves its purpose. It's a tool that's utilized. I don't think it's discretionary. I think we need that vehicle as part of the fleet. And if we were to lease purchase it over the next 3 years, it would cost us $2,000 more. In line with Madden's recommendations, as well as the Collins study, when it's practical, we should not be lease purchasing. So both this article and the next one were originally submitted as lease purchases and were converted to be presented as purchases.
Okay. And is this motorcycle to add to the fleet or to replace?
It will replace the one that's the lease is expiring on.
Okay.
Do we have a buyout on the current lease? Is it
No,
a
we
dollar
don't.
buyout?
It's a straight lease.
Straight lease. So what is it, a 2 or 3 year?
3 year.
3 year. So hopefully we can get more than 3 years out of a new motorcycle as well.
Well, with the amount of time that we operate it and with proper care, that motorcycle should last us well beyond 3 years.
Okay.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that
Small,
motion.
make the motion.
I'll second.
The motion is for.
The motion is to line 13, purchase motorcycle for 18,000. I'm sorry, line 14. No, 13. Geez, 14 for purchase a motorcycle for $18,425.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor? Roll call vote. Don Essen.
Yes.
Frank Lynham.
Yes.
Dan Salvucci.
Yes.
Fred Small.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes.
John Galvin. Oh, sorry. Josh McNeil.
Yes.
Dave Cordero, yes. And Justin Evans.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous, 8-0.
Sean, I guess we're going to have to make you an emeritus member.
And same question on the police cruiser. Is that replacement?
That is a replacement of one cruiser. We have another one that's coming in that's already funded through
Insurance.
insurance. Thank you.
All right.
So that would cover the 2 for the year.
Mr. Small, make the motion for line 14, purchase a cruiser for the amount of $63,000.
I'll second it, Dan Salvucci.
All right. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Dave Cordero, yes. Josh McNeil.
Yes.
Frank Lynham.
Yes.
Dan Salvucci.
Yes.
Aaron Taylor.
Yes.
Justin Evans.
Yes.
Fred Small.
Yes.
Don Essen.
Yes.
800. Unanimous. 0. The public safety voice recorder. I know just Josh, you've discussed this a little bit. Are you in the know on this particular article?
Yeah, I believe I forwarded the information. I know the finance committee should have it as far as the article is concerned, but what we're doing essentially is eliminating the recorder, or we'll be eliminating the recorder at the fire station and replacing the recorder at the police station, which is now 9 years old. It was part of the building project back in 2011. And it no longer, it will not support Windows 10, still running Windows 7, and we need to get off of it for obviously security reasons. So in doing so, we're obviously at the same time combining and removing the redundancy, if you will, as far as having two different recorders for the sites, considering the fact that the fire department is obviously a much smaller setup now with the regionalized dispatch. So the recorder is certainly recording calls, but obviously not nearly at the volume that it was before, with all the calls coming in to the fire department directly. So it's going to save us obviously annual expense from the recorder side as far as the annual maintenance that we pay, and it makes no sense to have two different boxes.
Okay. Any idea of what that average annual maintenance on that one on one of those units was?
I believe they roughly about $1,100, I believe, or $1,200 each. We were able to actually, unfortunately, we were both paying differently. The fire department was basically paying the maintenance for their recorder, and the police department was paying the maintenance for their recorder initially. And when I had talked to the company that's basically that they purchased the equipment from, because this was before I started transitioned over to the town. I was able to get a discount, considering the fact that they were renewing at two different times, I think, throughout the year. So essentially, we basically combined them and ended up saving a little bit of money these past few years. But like I said, at the end of the day, it's an expense that we don't really need, and we can certainly eliminate it if we consolidate.
The maintenance for the recorder was is that a cost that was coming out of all other services? Do you know where that money was coming from?
I don't know on the fire.
I actually think it was coming out of technology, but I can check that.
Yeah, I don't believe the fire side was. I know the police side.
Right, the police was.
Yeah, the police definitely was because we transitioned that when we actually consolidated expenses from the IT side. But the fire was still being paid, I believe, from one of their accounts.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion on public safety recorder. 17.
I'll make that motion, Dan.
Dan Salvucci.
Mr. Small will second it.
Second. Any other discussion on that one? All right. Roll call vote. Don Essen?
Yes.
Frank Lynham?
Yes.
Dan Salvucci?
Yes.
Fred Small?
Yes.
Aaron Taylor?
Yes.
Ron Galvin?
Not me.
Oh, sorry, I do keep doing that. Josh McNeil?
Sure, if I can vote on it.
Dave Cordero, yes. Justin Evans?
Yes.
8-0. 0-0. All right, Josh, we'll stick with you on electronic permitting.
Actually, if I could jump in, Dave.
Absolutely.
We voted this article on April 2nd.
Oh,
We did? Did we?
We
vote
did.
for
I thought so
it?
also. I thought we agreed to this a while back.
Yeah, I just reviewed the minutes.
awesome.
Okay.
All right.
And we're 19 too. Didn't we approve that?
Yeah, I thought we did one of the trucks. I thought we did.
The enterprise one you did up top, P6.
Oh, there it is. Yep. Okay.
So.
So 19 DPW, the 35,000 GVW truck. I know through the finance committee that this has been a long-standing item to replace their fleet. which was just about all brand new in 1990. I think that's the last time when they had a major purchases, and then over the past 3 years they've been slowly replacing equipment, and this is one of those pieces that I think we're going to replace a 1990s vehicle. Am I right on that, Frank? Did you know?
Yes, there were 5 trucks purchased in 1992 for a little over $1 million, and it was a great idea to update them. It was a really bad idea to buy them all at once.
I know.
So we have purchased 2 of those trucks in the last 5 years. So this would be an appropriate third replacement.
Can I just ask one thing? So on the truck that it's replacing, is that getting traded in, or does that get sold on the open market, or what happens to those?
The DPW is going to tell me they want to keep it for parts, and I'm going to say no, we need to dispose of it.
Well, Frank, I was down there looking at the vehicle,
Yep.
and what they do with it is a lot of times they have like big cinder cement blocks. They'll pick them up, and strap them to the back of it because they take the bed off the truck, and they'll put the aluminum bed for on the back of the new truck, and they'll use that truck for plowing, like their DPW and stuff off the road.
Well, Dan, the trouble with that is eventually you wind up running trucks you've already said were too expensive to maintain, yet we keep them to run in another cycle. We also have to pay insurance on those vehicles.
Right, true, right.
I think it's time when if a truck is bad enough to replace, if it's not an additional purchase, then something should be going out the door.
Okay, it's something we need to talk to the commissioners about. Yes.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that should definitely be cleaned up, and there might be a little bit of credit on the purchase of the 132,000.
Actually, Don, we can't do that, and I'll tell you why. We have to bid these vehicles, and it's a sealed bid over $50,000, and unless you are prepared to bench that truck that you're going to trade in, because it's going to take 4 to 5 months to acquire the vehicle, you can't trade it, because you can't offer it for trade and guarantee that it will be the same vehicle when the purchase comes in. So it would be treated as
so even if we receive sealed bids and we accept a vendor or I guess a dealership or something like this, and then we could still get a credit off of the sealed bid, we wouldn't take it? That doesn't make sense.
No, we can't do that. The same way we buy things, we have to dispose of them. We can't give somebody we like an opportunity to buy that truck. We have to offer it for public sale. Lisa is our chief procurement officer, and if you want to chime in, Lisa, and explain the process, I'd be fine.
You don't have to educate me on this. I'm just asking the question. It seems seems logical.
Since we probably can't do it.
Okay.
Well, the one question
That's my experience with state statutes.
I guess the one question would be if equipment that gets sent out for public auction, the funds generated from that just goes into the general fund, correct?
Yep.
Correct.
All right.
Sure. Just for a quick question, and I would assume that the DPW would quote unquote strip it of any usable parts such as the rear body or the plows, etc.
That's what they've done in the past.
So we're just buying a truck. We're not buying the body. We're not buying plows, etc. Those things are interchangeable.
We'll be buying a body, Fred. That body, unless it be updated, it's not going to transition to a new truck.
Yeah, the truck that they think they're buying, Frank, they're going to take the aluminum body that they put salt and sand in, and they're going to transpose it onto the new one, because that's what they did the last time.
Well, then I have to look at the purchase documents because the 132 is a
Or
fully
maybe this
loaded
truck, they're
dump.
not gonna do it. You know, I don't know. You have to talk to Bruce.
Yep.
All right, I will entertain a motion for warrant article number 19.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Dan Salucci, Josh McNeil. Any further discussion?
Do we want to wait until we have the answer in the body, or it doesn't matter? As far as we're
I think
concerned.
that's more of an operational decision than a purchase decision. It's not going to affect the warrant article.
You go with that? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. Yep.
All right, roll call. Justin Evans,
Yes.
Dave Cordero, yes. Josh McNeil,
Yes.
Fred Small,
Yes.
Aaron Taylor,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Frank Lyman,
Yes.
Don Essen.
Yes.
All right, unanimous, 8-0. All right, voted. Frank, you have an earmark here for the DPW facility study.
Yes, this committee previously voted to support the study on April 2nd at 100,000. We've reduced the estimated cost to 50. So I think it should probably be revoted at be voted again at the correct amount.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion on that.
So, all right, so I'll make a motion that we readjust the item number 22, the DPW facility study study amount to $50,000.
Right. It's just a
I'll
motion
second that.
to approve 50, Dan.
Yeah, approve 50.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor for the amended. Frank, you have us. We voted this on April 2nd. The original.
What we're doing is
We
we're
voted
voting
at
a new number.
100,000, right?
Yes. We're voting a new number of $50,000.
All right. Sorry. We have we have a motion in a second.
Yep.
Yeah.
For the amended amount to $50,000. Any further discussion? So, Frank, the question I have is so the anticipated when we first met and started discussing this, numbers were being brought out to 4 million, 5 million. The estimated facility, the estimated DPW building now is could be up to potentially 9 million or greater, correct?
Well, it could be anywhere from high 6 to 9. The people I spoke with on this, Weston and Sampson, are eminent in the field for public work facilities. And they feel strongly that a feasibility study can be completed for what we're asking for. They also provided us, which I forwarded to the committee, a list of recent projects. I think that our project is going to be a little more modest than some of those have been. And we may have to split it into 2 operations, build a building, get it occupied, and then come back and look at rehabbing the rear building by reskinning and re-roofing it as a separate project. If not, it can simply be used for cold storage.
Okay. Any other questions on that? All right, roll call vote. Don Essen,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Frank Lynham,
Yes.
Aaron Taylor,
Yes.
Fred Small,
Yes.
Josh McNeil,
Yes.
Dave Cordero, yes. Justin Evans.
Yes.
All right, 8-0-0. DPW, sorry, my printing is off here. K 3500 truck.
Right, that's another, it's a heavy duty pickup, capable of plowing and towing to 4x4.
Now, Frank, you mentioned earlier that, I know in the past, the issues, past issues that had occurred at DPW was that buying a lot of vehicles at the same time. Are we falling into that trap here now?
We're buying 3.
Well, right, and then there's been, over the past 3 years, there's been one added each year. Are we?
So we are kind of spreading them out. I asked Bruce if he might consider waiting another year for the 3,500 because we bought a few. And his sense is that the equipment they're using now is constantly being repaired, and we don't have enough vehicles to provide for all crews to go out and work at the same time. So this is really not just a replacement. This is to add to the fleet to provide adequate vehicle support for the operations of the DPW.
Okay. All right. Entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Go ahead.
And I'll second it, and then discuss when you're ready for discussion.
All right. We have a motion from Dan Salvucci, second Fred Small. Further discussion, Fred?
Does this include a plow, or should we include a plow in this type of a figure?
I believe this purchase includes a plow.
Wow, yeah.
Okay. All right. I almost think that it could be COVID related. How do you distance 6 feet inside the bed of a truck?
Well, and we have no
Inside the
idea
cab.
how long we're going to live with that.
Yeah.
So the
we
argument
need
for
to buy
another
more
vehicle
trucks.
is a good argument.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. Roll call vote. Aaron?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Fred Small?
Yes.
Dustin?
Yes.
Dave Cadero, yes. 8-0. 8-0. Firehouse renovations.
Hey, this is the one that the chief submitted maybe a little more than a month ago. And it involves some significant work inside the house to make it more functional. One of the bigger issues is the hose tower. The floor and access area there need to be repaired and brought up to grade. And let me see if I can find the proposal. Let's see. Cancel. You saying something, Dan?
Yeah, I hear this background noise. Kids yelling.
Don't know. If that was Charlie, there wouldn't be any question. We hear him all through the house.
Yeah.
And my dog's getting all riled up, so I'm just going to mute.
Just still Dan yelling no. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always count on Dan for,
A reality check.
oh, I guess you could call it that.
I don't
I'm just trying to find the detail. Ironically, I brought all my books back into the office yesterday. Otherwise, I would have had it readily available.
Will we be out of line to pass over that and ask the chief if he could join us next week or next meeting?
If that's the pleasure of the committee.
That seems reasonable. Frank, do you want to reach out to Chief Colonel?
I will.
All right, so we'll pass that one over. Thanks. Repair sidewalks at Conley Duval in middle school, number 25, 35,000. There's been a lot of, we had a lot of discussion on these. I'm not sure if we needed any follow-up. Did anyone need any follow-up on this one?
I thought we voted these too.
I'm just trying to get back to the screen. Bear with me a minute.
No, we didn't.
We didn't. Okay.
Yeah. No, we talked about it during a few meetings.
Frank, do you want me to stop your share to help you get your screen back?
I had the screen back. I can't find the share. Let me try this. It's a great program, but every once in a while you go down the rabbit hole. And then I'm doing here. There it is. It must think because it will enlarge my my view. There we are.
Got it. All right.
Okay, sorry about that. So
if anyone needs it, I can share it.
Number 24, we're going to ask the chief to be available to provide more information on that. Okay.
25, the sidewalks at Conley Duval and middle school. Those have heaved due to frost, etc. Was the explanation that Ernie had given me.
Now, Fred, on the Conley, several years ago, we went out and completely replaced a section of the front of the school. Is this a different section?
I believe so. Same as the middle school we just did 2 or 3 years ago, a couple of sections, and those I'm told are different sections.
Okay. Well, hopefully whoever's doing this will do a good job of compacting. So we're not.
I think our DPW helps with that portion of it.
Okay.
Do we have an engineered spec on what the compaction ratio should be and those type of details? Because we could
My guess is when we first
throwing
built
money at something that we're going to continue to do every couple of years unless we get it right. I'm kind of on the side with this one, Frank. We need to have an engineered detail to get these things right, so we don't have to continue doing them.
I'm going to guess and say that no, because I've never seen one of those studies done.
There's standard details in asphalt literature of, or geographically where you're located. There's standard details.
Yeah, typically, as I understand it, what we do is we dig out the old sidewalk, we replace with aggregate, we pack it, and then we hire a company to pour the concrete. Of course, they're wide sidewalks. And, as familiar as I am with going to the Conley to pick up the kids all the time, I just can't picture what part of the sidewalks are being replaced.
I can't either, Frank. I walk that almost every other day, and it looks great to me up at the Conley. The middle school, especially along Corthell Ave, going to the school, that's horrible.
Oh, I agree.
But I
But
have
I suspect that's not what they're looking at too.
Yeah, I don't know. Up at Conley, they look pretty good to me.
At the middle school, there are significant, I'd almost call them caverns, not potholes, uh, at the sidewalk level. I mean, there are deep fissures in there, and I'm amazed nobody's been hurt. For us,
Can we shelf this one till next meeting also? We'll have Ernie give us pictures and details on it.
If Ernie's available, most definitively. If not, I'll try and find somebody else that might be available.
Maybe
that can
Bob
go over
Curran
that.
can walk the 3 schools.
Yeah,
Can give
Bob's our
Bob a call. I'll
facilities
be glad
director.
to
Let
meet
me
him.
get him out there.
I'm sorry?
Bob's our facilities director. Let me get him out there too.
Let him walk the sidewalks. That way he can take pictures of them.
Okay.
We'll table that. Fred, you'll follow up on your end, and Frank, you'll follow up with Bob.
Yep.
Okay, tabled.
Gener-
All right, generators. Generators for the Conley and the Duval. This is a particular article that has changed from their original request. The original request was 1 generator to split between the 2 schools. Discussion was made, and it's now being proposed that 1 generator for each school.
I don't know that we have the information we wanted yet, because when we last met and talked about this, Ernie was not available and has not been. Fred, do you know anything different?
Nothing different.
Right. So
That
let's
Ernie
mark
hasn't
this
been
for
available.
additional information, and we'll see if we can ratchet that up. I'm meeting with the superintendent tomorrow on an unrelated issue at the high school. So I'll let him know that these are issues that are outstanding and we really do need reasonably quick information on.
Reconfigure the high school guidance area.
We already voted on that.
Oh, sorry.
Voted that.
And then
And
we've discussed the district-wide telephone system.
yeah, I'm taking that right off.
All right. That feels like a good place to stop today, unless anyone feels otherwise.
No, that works.
I'm with you.
Next meeting. Frank, any further developments on town meeting date?
Yes, town meeting has been scheduled for June. Dan, what was it, the 22nd? Yes.
Yes.
That's
Yes,
what
it
you
was.
guys did.
June 22nd. They're contemplating holding the meeting at the high school. There's a couple of wrinkles involved in that. One of them, believe it or not, is a state law that says you have to meet within the borders of your community. My argument to that is the address of the high school is 600 Franklin Street, Whitman. Our attorney isn't quite sure that's going to fly, but at the same time, there is legislation that should pass in the next day or two that will allow communities, due to the COVID, to hold a meeting outside of their geographic boundaries if necessary. So I expect that as long as we can find a safe way to bring people in, we will have a meeting on June 22nd at Whitman Hanson Regional High School.
Either the auditorium or the gymnasium.
Correct.
The Performing Arts Center, I should say. I'm sorry. Where
Ta-ta.
that holds close to 1,000, so should be able to configure that with safe distances and hopefully get a quorum plus.
Yeah, it's really an amazing experience trying to identify space, because you're all familiar with our town hall. After I went through it with tape measures, chairs, and markers, taking all of the space on the ground floor, all of the balcony, and the auditorium stage. We can fit roughly 101 people in there.
Wow.
Now, we've had 700 people in that room. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, I hope that we don't find the same when it comes to the auditorium or the Performing Arts Center.
Right. That's what I'm worried about, Fred, because, the seats are rigid and fixed. If we go into the gym, it's a huge gym and it may give us the spacing we need.
Yeah, can do that. Also, and there is past precedence, Hanson did hold a town meeting there once.
Yeah, but
It
they're
was
in
held
Hanson.
but it was held in the Performing Arts Center, but they did have spillover into the cafeteria.
That
And
would
they
have
had
been the
fun-
middle school, right? I mean, the new elementary school.
well, that was about what the meeting was, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was there. It was
Their battle cry was the greatest tax increase ever. I think was the.
something like that. You'd have to call Mr. Young and ask him what the battle cry was, and I'm sure he'll remember.
I'll just leave it as it stands. but yes, it should be adequate. Again, it's the other challenge is we really don't know how many people we're going to get. The state has reduced or allowed us to reduce quorum requirement. The purpose of that is to get enough people to attend a meeting, not to filter people out. And I don't know how you tell someone who is a voter who comes to a meeting place and says, I want to be in town meeting. No, you can't because we're only allowing 100 people.
Can't do that.
Legally, we can't.
You can't do that.
Yep.
Morally, you can't.
Yeah.
Right. I would be really hard pressed. But the high school gives us some unique options. We can go to classrooms. We can go to 2 huge meeting spaces. So there's a lot of options for us. And the building is fully wired for communication. Something you don't have in town.
You even have the small lecture hall.
Right.
Over there. So
Josh will be busy that day.
Yes, Justin will be busy for the election anyway. The election, if anyone's interested, is June 26th, and it will be at the town hall. And we're still considering the details associated. It is the 26th, right?
27th.
27th.
I thought.
I knew that didn't sound right in my head. So
7th, yeah.
Yeah, on June 27th, the hours will be from 9 to 5, and we're hoping with that expanse hours, it will cut down on the number of people turning out at any one time. And we are really promoting distance voting. If anyone gets the Express, you'll find it a form that can be completed and mailed, emailed, faxed, whatever, to the town clerk saying, I'd like to vote early. And in response, the clerk will mail out a ballot, which you can then either mail back or drop off. We're also working on drop-off bins, a bin in front of the town hall for people to drop those votes. So we can keep entrance to a minimum. So all of this is developing. We have to function. The only thing we can get by without is a town meeting. Because if we can't do it, it just gets postponed and we go on a 1/12 budget. But we cannot delay the election. And in fairness to the community and its departments, there's a way to do the town meeting and give them a budget for July 1st. We should be doing it.
Can I ask a question related to revenues, but not per se in
Sure.
this committee? What happens if the school committee cannot agree or cannot vote affirmatively on a budget, and you don't have a school budget to vote?
Well, as I'm sure you've heard before, that has never happened in the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
But if it does, I believe the same statutory issue applies. The Commissioner of Education, in the interest of educating students, would take a position on what the budget should be and then order its order it on a 1/12 basis. So he would issue an order starting July 1st that the budget would be X per month.
Okay. I just didn't know if it worked a little bit different on the town side, but obviously you'll just get the bill every month and go from there.
Fred would probably keep, at least in my opinion, would probably keep the same number in our Article 2 than what we have now, and probably go
Absolutely.
ahead and vote it anyway. I mean, I don't know what we'd do there, but I'm assuming
Well,
that's
can you vote it? That's the question.
We
Can
can
you vote it?
It's just an appropriation.
right.
That with the success of the appropriation is dependent on a school budget that meets what we've appropriated. If what we've appropriated is less than what the school is certified as a budget, then it's a failure to vote. If it's more, the appropriation stands, but we would not allow a disproportionate spending accounts. So they'd still have to get a budget in place.
Frank, I have a question on that. The amount
Yeah.
of money you have listed down in Article 2, that $700 and something thousand increase over last year's budget, is that based on the statutory method and $55 million budget?
That is based on the statutory method with a budget essentials presentation the school made and the addition of 4 teachers.
So, and it's still gonna cost, so basically, we're not saving any money. It's costing us an additional 800,000.
That falls within the 5% that Madden had recommended for
Well,
schools.
Dan, we had
Oh.
never expected to pay less.
Well, what are they screaming about? How Hanson's gonna be paying $1 million more, and we're gonna pay $1 million less.
Because the argument is if we accept the budget that's presented and go fully statutory, our numbers will see, but Hanson's increase is,
23%, I think,
yeah, somewhere around there.
like over $2 million.
Huge increase for them
Yeah.
because they would have their regular increase plus the shift in assessment.
And so, and are you saying that if we went by the old method, our increase would be like 1,900,000
What is?
if we went with
If
the
you
old
have a
method?
You have a $2.5 million increase approximately in the school budget.
Right?
All right. So under the old way of doing it, you split that 2.5 up 60/40. You're responsible for 60%.
And how much would
Under
that
Under
be?
just a straight per pupil.
Our budget would go up around 1.4 million. Hanson would go up 800,000 in the old analysis. But once we go to statutory, the numbers change. Our budget would go up close to 700,000, I think, and
It was
Hanson would go up the difference.
Okay.
All right, so Frank, while we're on the schools, if the middle school feasibility study funding source changes to a borrow funding source,
Yes.
does that then require a town meeting, like a 2/3 town meeting, or
Yes. All borrowing requires a 2/3 vote at town meeting.
and then since the school committee would be borrowing, they would then have to vote on wanting to borrow as well, right?
And their vote is just a simple majority.
Simple majority. Okay.
But their vote is ministerial. Because it's a Whitman building, they're borrowing on our behalf.
Right.
I did ask John, I had another communication with John Tuffy yesterday an exchange in emails. And I have asked him to look into it and see if there's any way that we as a community could borrow that money as opposed to borrowing it through the district and being assessed. And to give us numbers, assuming that we borrow and pay within the year. The school's borrowing typically is a ban. So all we would be paying in year 1 and 2 would be interest until the project is approved. I would, just from a standpoint of financial management, would prefer we not carry that debt if we're able to amortize it over 3 years. Because there is the possibility that we can go through all this and not build. And if we planned it that way, we would make that determination and then have an $850,000 payment to, which I don't think is in the town's interest.
Right. Okay.
And if we get reimbursed, it takes a little bit of pressure off the actual funding once it happens. It leaves us some flexibility. In my view, it would have been nice to just pay the $850 and be done with it. But it really compromises our ability to do everything else with what we see happening within the budget for next year. I'm really concerned about having money available, because if things are worse than we plan, we're going to need it.
Okay. All right. So we got sidetracked a little bit. We're trying to schedule next meeting. Does next week, May 14th, work for everyone? Same time?
I'd have to look at my
Fine for me.
schedule. I have to look at my schedule. It's on my iPad and I have,
Uh-oh.
a calendar.
That doesn't work for me.
No.
Do we have,
Day or time?
we're just waiting for follow-up on 3 articles?
Yes.
Do we want to give it 2 weeks and try and get representatives from the schools and fire department here?
That's fine. If
That works.
the 21st, does that work for everyone? May 21?
Sure.
That's a Wednesday?
Yeah,
Is that-
it's a Thursday.
Thursday. Right,
If it's gonna be 2 weeks, I need to have it a little bit later, probably after like 4:30, 5:30. I probably will be back with my regular, schedule at that time.
Ooh.
So you're hoping that May 14th.
Well, I mean,
date-
I'm hoping, right? Aren't we all?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a cup by now.
Well, yeah.
That's okay. I'll
You wanna
miss
say-
some.
Do we want to say 5 o'clock on the 21st? And that's subject to the RAC doing
I think
anything.
Don's
But
looking for 5:30.
5 o'clock, I
5:30.
can probably do 5 o'clock.
5/20, May 21 at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
All right. All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Small, make that motion.
Second.
I'll second it.
Roll call. Justin,
Yes.
Dave, yes. Josh,
Yes.
Fred,
Yes.
Dan, Tate,
Yes.
Darren,
No argument from me. Yes.
Frank, Don.
Yes.
Yes. Frank, I think I heard you say yes.
You did.
That's unanimous. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good
Ciao.
Good night.
day.
Good night.
Night, Lisa.